Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and I am beyond honored today to be speaking with Mariame Kaba, a New York-born activist, grassroots organizer, and educator who focuses on the dismantling of the prison industrial complex. She's the author of many books, including We Do This Till We Free Us and her latest, No More Police, which she co-wrote with Andrea J. Ritchie. Kaba argues for the total abolishment of all prison and policing, and her work has provided tools and blueprints for many social justice organizations over the years. Kaba is the founder of Project Nia, which provides young people affected with violence with community-based alternatives to legal proceedings in an effort to end juvenile incarceration. Today, we talk about her work, her love of books, and about the ways we can all be thinking about abolition. Mariame will be back on November 30th for our book club discussion of Prison by Any Other Name, The Harmful Consequences of Popular Reforms by Maya Chenwar and Victoria Law. Quick reminder, everything we talk about on today's episode of The Stacks can be found in the link in the show notes. Listen, if you love this show and you want more of it, head to patreon.com/thestacks and join The Stacks Pack. The Stacks is an independent podcast, which means I rely on listeners like you to make the show possible every single week. In addition to your support, you earn perks like our monthly virtual book club, bonus episodes, and access to our Discord community and a lot more. If you'd like to be a part of this wonderful bookish community, please head to patreon.com/thestacks and join us. Thank you to some of our newest members, Melissa Rodriguez, Jacqueline Fredette, Deandra Martinez, Remika Bingham-Risher, Alessia Vitale, and Madeline Moy. Thank you all so much, and thank you, of course, to the entire Stacks Pack for your support. All right, now it is time for my conversation with the Mariame Kaba. All right, everybody. I'm really excited today. I have I don't want to overhype too much, but I have a living legend, okay? I have someone who is like a thought leader on one of the topics that I am the most curious about in this point in my life. I have the one and only author, activist, organizer, student currently. I have Mariame Kaba. Mariame, welcome to The Stacks.
So happy to be here. Tracy, thanks for having me.
I'm so honored. I have to let everyone know, just so you guys know, Mariame is a member of the Stacks Pack. Just FYI. She's a supporter of the show. She is a friend of the pod. It's just so great. I gave you like a quick, super all hype intro. Do you want to tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'm happy to do so. My name is Mariame Kaba, and I use she, her pronouns. I am coming today from Lenape land in New York City. I live in Manhattan, and I was born and raised here. It's a good question right now, what's going on with my life right this minute. I'm in school. Back in school full time after over 25 years of being out of school. I'm studying for an MSLIS, so a Master's in Library and Information Science. I run couple of organizations. One is called Project Nia, which is an organization that I founded in 2009 when I was living in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for over 20 years. I moved back home to New York City in 2016. I run another organization with my friend and comrade Andrea Ritchie, which is called Interrupting Criminalization. We started that in 2018. I co-founded and have co-founded many different formations, groups, organizations over the years since I was 15 years old. So most of my adult life, I've been helping to build organizations for collective action, I think is what I like to tell people. Those are just a few of the things that are on my plate. I'm currently working really hard on a deadline of getting a manuscript in that I'm writing with my friend Kelly Hayes, which is going to come out sometime next year. And that's due to our editor next week. So I'm dealing with a lot.
Thank you for giving me so much time this week. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I have like a billion questions for you, but I feel like the only follow-up question to that is, how do you rest? How do you tap into your creativity? How do you find a way to be so active and still take care of you?
It's a great question. I have to say that I'm not a good person to ask the question of.
Okay, I'm one of those people too. I'm like, people are like, how do you balance? I'm like, I don't. I fuck up constantly, and then I have to like take a day off because I'm so tired.
It's really, and I'm also an insomniac, which I
Oh
tell people all
no.
the time. I've been an insomniac since I was a teenager. So this is a long-standing thing for me. So I always say particularly when I talk to younger organizers and they ask me, well, how do you do all this stuff? And I'm like, well, I have at least probably 8 more hours in the day than you do. And that tells you a lot about what's possible in a lot of extended time, but that's not
Mhm.
necessarily I would absolutely not recommend that other
Yeah.
people be insomniacs. Like, please get your sleep,
Yeah.
please rest. I'm 100% pro that. So yeah, so I'm not really good at being able to tell people how to manage those things. I do enjoy my life. I'm very content in it. I you know do things that I love to do that are fun, and being in relationship and community with other people I love. So I'm not, it's not a complaint. It's just how I live.
Yeah. You're a full grown adult and you went back to school.
I did.
Why? Why was that important to you?
It's a great question. I'm asking myself that right now as I'm
Finals are coming.
finals are coming. This is my last semester. Thank God. I cannot tell you. I'm relieved and happy to almost be done. I have my first job out of college was working at the County Cullen Library in Harlem, as an information specialist at a library. And I have always loved libraries. I grew up in libraries. My mother was 20 years old when she had me, or 21, and newly arrived to the United States, did not speak English. And we both spent all our time at the local library. My mom for English ESL classes, me for story hour and fun times. And I grew up basically as a latchkey child. I'm a real Gen Xer. And we spent so many after school times at the library. Like, the librarians were our second mothers, and parents and friends. And so I've always loved libraries, like in a visceral way that's about kind of human connection and possibility. And as I got older, I recognized like the library as a third space in our culture where you can spend your entire day and not spend a dime
Mhm.
is such an anti-capitalist space possibility,
Yeah.
even though they are trying to overrun it under the capitalist logics. But I want to maintain the space for public libraries. The publicness of them is
Mhm.
what makes them magical and offers us inordinate opportunities for building the world that we want to build. So I love libraries for that reason. So, and I love books. I love reading. This has been a lifelong thing for me, and I just thought to myself, always in my back of my mind, I was like, well, I'm probably going to go to library school at some point. And then in my 40s, I was like, if I'm going to do it at some point, I better
Gotta
do
do
it.
it.
Do it. Yeah, and as my 50th year was approaching, I'm like, I'm just going to jump in. So that's how I am. That's how I
Do you
went
think
back.
that you'll want to actually work as a librarian, or is it just like a set of skills that you wanted to have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like I don't want to work as a librarian. I'm interested in archives and archiving. And
Okay.
so I went back to gain specific skills that I am going to apply to my own collections. So I've been a collector for a very long time, of books and ephemera and movement materials and documents. And I have been wanting to figure out how to make sense of it, how to also activate my own collections so that they can be kind of publicly accessible
Mm.
documents to many other kinds of people so they can use it in their organizing and in their work. So those are the things that motivated me for wanting to go ahead. It turns out that I probably did not have to go to school to learn all those things. I probably could have taken a few workshops, like at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Society for American Archivists or some other place, but I did not know. I don't think I knew that when I
Right.
signed up for this. But
Right.
oh well, I don't regret anything.
That's how I feel about my college experience going to college for acting. I think if
Yes.
I wanted to be an actor, I probably could have taken a few classes and been fine, but whatever. Um, I know everyone's probably like, when are we going to get to abolition? Don't worry, people. We're going to get there. We got a lot of time. I'm really curious about you, the person, because I feel like one of the things that I discovered in my research and my reading of you is that for a long time, you, the person, didn't really exist publicly. You
Mhm.
sort of existed as like this idea and this like thinker, and some of your work was there, but it wasn't always attributed to you on purpose. And you don't take pictures publicly. And I'm just like, so people who see on the social media, you won't see Mariam's face in the picture on the Stacks Instagram page. So I'm sort of curious, like, I know that in We Do This Till They Free Us, you talk about it a little bit.
Mhm.
I just kind of want to hear you talk about why you felt like it was important to remove yourself sort of from the story, and why also you sometimes do put yourself back out. Like I was worried you were going to say no to this request because I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know, it's sort of like a Mariam show. So talk to me about it.
It's a really, I've struggled over the years in part with the question of visibility. And I'll say that I grew into becoming an activist and an organizer from a young age, mentored by people who always drove home the concept that it was organizers in the back, leaders in the front.
Mhm.
And you basically organized with and alongside people, and you were not the person who was up front. And I really internalized that. I internalized it to the point where I used to, and I still do, write a lot of curricula, zines, other things like that that I never attributed to myself. I never put my name on those materials. And then I would see many years later those materials being used by other people. And I knew I had made those things, but it didn't matter because my concept of thought around information and knowledge is that it is collectively produced to be used by the collective. And so I didn't have a sense of like ownership over those ideas because I know for sure that I have learned because other people have taught me,
Right,
or other
right.
people have made things that sparked a question or a thought in my own mind. So I was very big on the concept of kind of free information and information activism from the perspective of just like you make things, you share things, people use it, we build off of each other over time. So those two things kind of were part of my DNA growing up and became part of like my world, you know? And it wasn't until I was in my 30s, honestly, when, and this is a story that always occurs, I think, for all of us. A friend of mine, we were working on a project together, and I was like, "Oh, we don't need to sign. You know, we could just kind of put it out there. Like, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal. We don't have to like put our names on it." And she was like, "Huh, interesting." She's like, "Miriam," and she was a white person, so this is a important point. She said, "It's interesting to me that for someone who is so committed to Black folks, to the histories of Black people, particularly Black women, who has done all this work trying to excavate the stories of Black women throughout history, that you would erase yourself from history.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's that about?" And I have to say, it hit me in the solar plexus. I literally gasped. I mean, it's not dramatic to say that. I was like, because it had never occurred to me before to think about lineage in that kind of way, right?
Yeah.
To think about what I might have been teaching inadvertently to other young Black women, that I that my political view and my values around the importance of collective knowledge, the fact that you didn't have to be above anybody else, did not necessarily mean that I shouldn't attribute my own work, right?
Mm,
That I didn't, that everything I had done wasn't a labor, that I
right.
hadn't poured a lot into those things, that, and why, and how would people trace lineage if they didn't know who wrote things, right? How would that even be, how would I also be able to be held to account for my ideas if nobody knew that I had written them? So those things really started me on a different journey. And I would say this to end on it. because it's a long, involved thing that didn't just happen overnight.
Right.
I was working with a young person, as I have for many years, who had been in conflict with the law. And he had been in and out of prison for a long time, and he was out at this time. And he had learned through some sort of process about blogging when he was on the inside the last time. And we were just in a conversation. We were arguing on a political front. It's like disagreeing with him on something vehemently. He said, "You know what, Miss Kaba?" He's like, "You need to write your own. You need a blog. You need a blog because you need to like get all your ideas out to the public, right? Like you have good ideas. You should write them out." And I was like, I'm a Luddite, so it's really interesting to like you saw I have a flip phone. I'm like, like I'm on one social media, like I'm not whatever. So I was like, a blog? I don't even know how to make a blog. How would I do that?
Right.
And it was him who set me up with a blog through WordPress. And we were deciding, and he said, call it, you don't have to put your name on it. Because I was like, I don't want to put my name on like a blog. Like, it's so weird. And this was he started talking to me about it in 2009. And in 2010, I put out Prison Culture, my blog. Wow. That was not obviously attributed to me by name. I didn't have to put my photo on there, but I could just blog. And then he was the person who linked that blog to Twitter. So that's how I got on Twitter, was through initially just like links to my blog getting on Twitter.
Wow.
So that happened. And that was another moment where I put myself more out there publicly, but I still didn't name myself,
right.
Officially. So all that to say that it's been a process for me over time to become more comfortable with being more present in a public way for all the reasons I mentioned, which is that I owe it to other people to do that in some way, particularly as a Black woman and a Muslim Black woman, and all the other parts of my identity where people can maybe see something reflected that gives them a little bit more courage to take a step forward. So that's how I started thinking about it more and got out of my own way, but I still hold all those same, like my public, my private life is my private life. I don't talk about that in public. I'm not like, those are the kinds of things I still hold. I still am uncomfortable with, photos, videos, things like that, whatever. So it's just a process.
Yeah. I find it really interesting, just like from where you started about, organizers in the back and leaders in the front, because I think that that's really shifted a little bit. Like, and I just when you were saying that, I was thinking like so many organizers like of the civil rights movement who were in the back, who we've since learned about were women and queer people. And I just think about like, yeah, of course, women organizers in the back, because that's where the ladies and the gays go, and then it's like, but the leaders, they're in the front. And I just think about how now so many leaders, at least the people that I look to, are Black women, are queer folks. And like, and I distrust a leader who's not sometimes, like I'm like, I don't know, white guy, like who are you with? Like, who are your people? So I feel like I'm glad that you made that shift, because I do think that it's the shift that feels right for a lot of this work. It's like, I want to know who's organizing. I actually care less about who's leading. I want to know who's making it happen, who's pushing the thinking. And so I don't know if that's like a generational thing or like if that's just like, I don't know exactly what the shift is, but I definitely think about like Bayard Rustin, and I'm like, yeah, they didn't want people to know about him.
Yes.
Like he was organizing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many cases about that. And so many organizers I respect from the past who did believe that exact thing, which was, Ella Baker is the kind of most visible now person that people can point to around that. But she was, strong people don't need strong leaders. The notion that, you can make your way in the world using your own power and connecting that power to other people, and that collective action is what will free us ultimately. That's what's liberatory. And so therefore there's a quote of hers where she says, I hardly ever did interviews. I did not put myself out in that way. But you know what we lost from that is a whole archive of
Yeah.
Ella Baker's thinking and her
Yeah.
thoughts and the interviews that we would have been able to glean new knowledge from. She wrote very little. And I think a lot of her, when Barbara Ransby did, to me, one of my favorite books uh, of recent decade is, Ella Baker and the Black Freedom Movement. And, you know, in order for Barbara to do that work, Barbara had to dig on so many levels in the archives to be able to really
Mm-hmm.
bring Mrs. Baker's voice to the forefront. People did not know, for example, that she was married for years,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like you
I didn't
never
know that.
saw and didn't hear about her husband for a second, right?
Right.
So that I think it is a generational shift in many kinds of ways. But those are a lot of the people that taught me, were people who were like, nah, you don't do that. Like
Right.
you don't make yourself the story, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad things are changing. You and I have something in common.
Mm,
You more than me, but we are not writers.
yes.
You are not a writer, and
I'm not.
I am not a writer.
Mm,
I write once a month,
yeah.
and it is the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
You write books and things. Like I would argue that maybe you are a writer, but I love this about you. Can you please, as a person who has published books and has a blog and does write, explain why you are not a writer?
Thank you for asking that question. I am not a writer. I don't obsess over writing as a craft. I'm
Mm,
not spending all my time like laboring over the uh, beauty and the prose of the prose, and that is not I don't find that to be, for me, like exciting, or
mm-hmm.
like I don't get like particular satisfaction out of that. The
Mm-hmm.
reason I always say this, I'm an organizer who sometimes writes. I write for a very utilitarian reason, which is that I'm trying for myself to make sense of what I think. So writing helps me to make sense of what I'm doing in the moment. So it's a selfish reason. It's why I've been journaling since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
like to, when I write stuff down, I reread it and it explains to me where I'm at, what's going on, what I'm doing. The second thing is that I constantly preach to younger organizers that it's really important to document your practice, that
Yeah.
it is important for you to have something to say about what you're doing in the times that you're living in, and that doesn't have to be a publicly available set of pieces of writing or thinking, but you should do it. And if that documentation is just you talking into a tape recorder on a regular basis, totally fine. That's a perfectly valid form of quote writing, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's not a craft that I feel like I am actually, again, devoted to. It isn't anything part of my identity. I I just do it. I'm like the how do you call it? With the whistle as you work little people that like
Oh
walk
yeah.
in, like the do
Yeah.
like exactly, like making the widgets kind of thing.
Right, right,
That's
right, right,
that's
right.
that's how I see the writing that I do. It's like widget making, basically.
Got it.
Um,
Got it. So it's just a tool for you.
it's a tool. It's a way. It's a clarifying personal thing for me. It
Yeah.
allows me to get clear on what it is I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and I also see it as a way to communicate with other people about what I'm doing and what I
Hmm.
hope they'll also join in doing with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're going to get to abolition now, people. I know you've been waiting.
That's fine.
So, one of the things that I feel like, speaking of like evolution of thought, I don't really think of this podcast as like a documentation, but obviously it is like when I think about it. And in the last 5 years, which is basically how old the show is almost, I've started to like learn about abolition and like thinking about it. And, there was an episode in 2019, I think, that we did on, the cadaver king and the country dentist.
Mhm.
And in that episode, I was talking to my guest and I was like, I don't think I'm an abolitionist, but like, I don't really believe in like prison or like, and I like listed all the things that I was like, these things should go. And like, but then I was like, I don't know. And since then, I've talked to people like Derica Purnell. We've done Blood in the Water on the show. Like
Yeah.
we keep like kind of dipping our toes into abolition. And when I was reading We Do This Till We Free Us, Also, I should say you have a new book out called No More Police. I
Yes.
sort of have buried the lead on that with Andrea Ritchie. It's out in the world now, people, and it's really, really good. And we'll get to that too, but there's not just one book. But you talk about abolition sort of as like, frame it as like this, a becoming, like something that we do until we free ourselves, right? And like, for me, that was the most empowering thing between that and then also my conversation with Derica, where she was like, it's about imagination. Like, you got to create it. You got to make it up.
Yeah.
And like, those two ideas, I felt like have allowed me personally to step into this space of like, I don't actually know, but like, we're going to work toward it.
Yeah.
And so with all of that being said, first of all, thank you. But like, with all of that being said, the one question that I continue to have, and I struggle with this in my personal life with my children, and I struggle with it big picture when I think about like the people who have done the most harm, like mass murderers or something like that, right? What is the difference between punishment and consequence? Because I'm not clear on it when it comes to tiny things with my kids.
Yeah.
So how can I be clear on it when it comes to someone who kills children in a school?
Yeah.
You know, like, so could you talk about that? This is really just a personal question for me.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking the question. We talk about it briefly in No More Police, actually. And I use some of the kind of wisdom of my friend Danielle Sarad, who helps us to think through kind of more granularly the difference between punishment and consequences. And I'm just going to read a little bit of that.
Great.
That's okay. So you just have a little sense of it. So it says here, it's page 259 of No More Police. Danielle Sarad, founder of Common Justice and author of Until We Reckon, breaks down the differences between accountability and punishment in the chart we produce below. For accountability, she has accountability is something you choose to do. Accountability recognizes and requires your power, including your power to enact repair. Accountability is fundamentally active. It requires you to address suffering you cause by seeking to transform yourself and to mend and rebuild for others. It also deepens relationship and connection, and it fosters healing and restoration. However, punishment is imposed by others with power over you. It aims to diminish or contain your power, which it presumes can only be harmful. Is largely passive. This is incredibly important. So it requires you to address suffering you cause simply by suffering yourself, with no path to provide anything to others. It severs relationship and connection, and it fosters shame and isolation. So let me say this. Punishment is, to me, the most easy thing we can do. It's why we do so much of it. Right. The reason for punishment is you don't have to, it's completely the person who's doing the punishing that is active in that work. Whether that person is the punisher, the state is the punisher, you kind of just do the thing. You don't need consent from the person you're punishing. You don't have to engage them in any sort of way. You can lock them in a cage forever. There's no work on your part to punish, right?
Right.
So that's why it's seductive. It isn't just seductive because you don't have to do any work. It's also seductive because it feels good. Now, this is the part where people go all ballistic on me. It's to be like, when you say, I don't feel good when I punish people. Yes, you do.
Yes,
oftentimes you feel a sense of either relief because you got that person, because vengeance sometimes feels good.
So good.
We are human beings.
It feels so good.
It does. Somebody harmed you and you get a chance to harm them back. Let me tell you, we cannot ignore that. And I don't think, as abolitionists, I tell people this all the time, you can't talk about an abolitionist future or an abolitionist vision without addressing how kind of liminal, visceral pleasure people get out of vengeance, which is why we keep doing it over and over again. So saying all that is one thing. But the person who's punished is completely passive. And they choose whether or not they are going to, quote unquote, take accountability in an active way for what they did. They don't have to give you anything. They don't have to give you an apology. They don't have to do repair. You try to punish them and you force them to do repair and they don't do it, right? These are all the things that happen along those lines. So if you're thinking of your child, and I made a toolkit a couple of years ago called Against Punishment, and it's to work with children and young people in particular around punishment and punishment issues. When you tell your kids that they are punished and you send them up to a room and you tell them go and stay there, like, and write 10 times, I will not do this again. Do they do the thing again?
Yes.
Yeah, they absolutely do the thing again. And then you're based on trying to escalate your punishments.
Right.
To try to figure out what is going to stop the behavior. You haven't even tried to address what the root cause of why that misbehavior is happening in the first place. You haven't done hard work of figuring out with that person. So let's talk about what's going on here. Why'd you do that? I don't know. No, I don't think you don't know. Were you angry at me? Did you want my attention? Was I doing something that didn't make you feel good? Did you have a bad day at school and you came home, you don't want to really talk about it, so you're acting out? What is the root cause of what the hell's going on here? Let's address that, and most likely you won't be doing this thing again. Or if you do it again, you'll realize that you did it again, and you'll self-regulate yourself to make sure you don't, keep making those mistakes over and over again. So that's the kind of accountability as we talk about it in transformative justice, and punishment as we talk about it in transformative justice. There's another layer, and you asked that question. You're like, well, what's a consequence?
Yeah.
You cannot determine a consequence on your own.
You have to have the conversation.
Not just have the conversation, but other people have to be involved. Because guess what? Most of the times that harms don't just occur between individual people. They occur within context of our communities, and they also occur where other bystanders are around. Part of the reason we can't end rape culture is because it's a culture. It's not one rapist and one survivor. Right? It's a culture. Other people enable the harms to happen. Those folks have to be brought in some way around consequence decisions. Because what is going on here? So you mentioned your husband and your children. When something goes wrong, in the ideal sense, you and your husband have conferred on what kind of consequences you think are reasonable for your children. Because you both have a stake in that. And if you don't talk about it, that's a friggin' problem. Because it's not a given that you both agree that the violation was this and that it deserved this level of punishment, if that's what you were using. So think about that in a broader societal sense. We don't all agree about what is a harm. For you, that phobia might be the worst possible harm that can happen. And for me, I may roll my eyes and be like, that ain't a big deal at all, because it doesn't matter to me and it doesn't impact me. But our harms are they're relative to according to where we think the thing is the most serious. So you mentioned mass murder. Okay, horrible. But are you feeling exercised by Exxon killing millions of people in different kinds of ways? Like, why is the systemic violence that institutions are responsible for, why do those not elicit similar outrage of mass murders? Prisons in Rikers has killed 17 people so far this year. Y'all, that's not in the press as a mass murder, is it? It is a mass murder. If one guy down the street killed 17 people, I promise you that show would be on A&E and on TV and a Law and Order episode and whatever. And
5 podcasts.
And 5 trillion podcasts. Not 5. Are you kidding? Right? So in our mind, institutional violence does not exorcise us in the same way. Because it gets obscured. And interpersonal violence gets uplifted to like the worst possible thing ever. And I get why that is. But we should be thinking about consequences that are right-sized for the situation. We should be asking ourselves if the consequences we're putting in are causing more harm than good. We should ask ourselves if we think we can end violence with violence. Like, can we? Is that the way? Like, you think about worldwide, we do a bunch of wars, we kill people by the thousands in our big. What has happened as a result of that? Has that alleviated? Right? Not good.
We have been super helpful.
No, we've drained the resources of the country. Thousands of people on our end are killed millions of people on other people's ends are killed, and the cycle continues on and on and on. We have an ended war, right?
Right.
So
Right.
all those are things to think about. Now, when somebody tells me, what about the serial killers and what about the rapists? I invite that question in the same way as I invite every other question that happens. And I want to ask people, yes, what about the rapists?
Right.
Explain to me how the current system is ending rape.
Right.
I really want you to, like, are most rapists locked up right now? That's a question.
No.
They are not.
Of course not.
Right? There's something like 2% of people actually who are accused of rape and go through the system end up locked up behind bars. That means 98% of rapists are not locked up behind bars today.
Right.
So when you tell me the fear that you have that says, well, I'm like, well, you're living that now.
Right.
Didn't we try something else? Why not? This is not working.
Right. So hearing you say this again just reminded me that I heard you on Mark Lamont Hill's podcast last year, maybe, or 2 years ago. And he asked you, I think, about the same question. And I think what you said, which is similar to what you're saying right now, which was a huge shift for me, was that it was like, well, what's your solution? And you were like, well, what we're doing right now isn't working, right? Like, we can agree on that. Like, prison is not working. It's not stopping crime. It's not stopping harm. It's not stopping violence. It's not helping people who are sick. It's not helping people who are homeless. And that thing of like, oh, the system that we have right now is not working was enough for me to be like, okay, I'm ready to step into this and actually like think about this seriously.
Yes.
Because I had sort of been playing with the idea of like, I don't like the police, but like, what's the solution?
Yes.
And like thinking in this like very devil's advocate-y way of like, well, they don't have a solution. They're telling me just to imagine. And then when you said that, I was like, oh my God, of course. I know police don't work. I know prisons are harmful. I know the death penalty is the worst. To me, that is the worst harm on the face. To me, that's the worst. The death penalty is the one that I'm just like, that is where I entered the thinking of abolition before I ever knew that. Because I was like, look, I know that if someone killed my brother, I might feel like I want them dead. But I'm not the government.
That's right.
I am not the representative of Mariame, of listener A, of my mom, of your dad. I'm my representative for my family and my brother. And if you hurt my family, yes, I want you dead. And maybe I'll try to kill you. But I don't want the government. And so like that for me made a lot of sense, but everything else was really hard. And when you said what we're doing now isn't working, I feel like that unlocked so much for me. Like that was the key to being like, okay, let's think about it. And I want to talk more about this like one-to-one thing when we talk about the book, Prison by Any Other Name, because there's a whole section on that. And I think like we have a lot to dig into. So I'm going to slightly skip over that for today. But what you're saying about like now.
I want to say something about
go ahead.
the system not working, because I think what I mean by that, if I'm saying the word working, is that the system is not serving those who are most harmed.
Yeah, I don't think you use the word working because I think what you probably said is the system is working as designed, but it's not helping. It's not.
It isn't.
It's not reducing harm. It's not reducing violence. It's not helping the people who need assistance. It's not making life. That's what you said. I don't want to put work because you definitely were like, the system is working as it's supposed to be working, but it's not helping us. It's not changing
the system
what needs to be changed.
Relentlessly and ruthlessly efficient at targeting the people it wants to target. Do you see? We are not. I love this kind of political and philosophical theorist guy named Stanford Beer, and he says the purpose of a system is what it does. The purpose of a system is what it does. Well, what does that mean, right? It's not, the purpose of a system is not what it says it's intended to do. It isn't what it claims it can't do. It is what it does. So if you stop thinking of all the things that are currently happening, right? Where people say, well, policing, we could just make it work differently and better. I'm like, but what is the purpose of policing?
Right.
The purpose of policing is what it does. What does it do? And if you stop there and you ask, what does it do? Put it on the table. If you say, well, it prevents, it responds to the most serious, egregious harms. Well, no. The New York Times just put it out there recently that policing takes up that 4% of the time that police spend is on violent crimes. 4% of their time. What are they doing for the other?
What are they doing?
Percent? You have to ask that question. And if you can't figure out what the answers are to that, it's your imperative to figure that shit out.
Yeah.
What else are they doing? If we're being told that we're spending $100 billion a year on cops and that is keeping us safe, and everybody keeps saying to me, the reason we can't get rid of cops is because of violence. And I say to you, well, they only respond to violence 4% of the time, to violent crime. Then what the hell are they doing for the other 96? So if you want to, let's begin, let's say, by saying, okay, well then if they're only responding to their time 4% of the time, then they can definitely be defunded. And we can use those resources in other places and let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's take 96% of their funding away.
Thank you. Let's take 96% of
Let's start there. Maybe we won't abolish the police. Let's just start with 96% defund.
I'm saying let's start with 50, which is what I put on the table in my, New York Times op-ed a couple of years ago. I was like, okay, you all are yelling at me about all this stuff. Right. I'm saying let's take 50% of their resources away from them and let's put those in other things I'm saying are salutary. And then you give me 25 to 100 years of that kind of spending. And then let's see whether our society looks different. Yeah. I promise you it will.
It will. Okay, we have to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Valentine's Day is upon us and I've got love on the brain. Love for books. Duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. Okay, we're back. We're shifting to books. I promise you, everyone, next week or at the end of the month when we do Prison by Any Other Name, we're going to get to a lot more questions. We're going through all sorts of reform. All you reformists, get ready. We're coming for you, okay? Mariame is bringing the heat. We're coming for reformists. But we're going to do Ask the Stacks, which is where someone writes in. They ask for a book recommendation. This is from Dakota. Dakota said, I was wondering if you could give me a handful of recommendations of some nonfiction books. For nonfiction books, I really like to read about historical events that tie into the world that we are living in today. Similar to Blood in the Water and Kill Anything That Moves, I'm not really interested in ones that discuss how great crotchety old white guys formed this country, which I'm sure I don't really have to worry about from you. But I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, Dakota, I'll go first. I'll give you 3, and then Mariame can give you 1 or 2 or 3, whatever you want. So the first one is a book that just came out this year that I was very not wanting to read. And then I read it and I thought it was very good, which is His Name is George Floyd by Robert Samuels and Toulouse Olurenipa. I didn't want to read it because I thought it was like some publicity grab. It was going to be icky. I thought it was going to be just like, I don't know, gross. then I started reading it. It's fantastic. They treat George Floyd like a US president. They do his entire history. They find his family that was enslaved. They find out about the people that owned his family, who those white people were. They go through his whole life, the people that loved him. It's like over 400 interviews. I just thought it was really beautifully rendered. And I think that giving the presidential treatment, if you will, to people who have impacted the nation in such a way is only fair, especially given that his impact also cost him his life. So that's my first one. My second one is one that I love so much that I haven't recommended in a while because I'm trying not to only push one book, but it's called A Thousand Lives by Julia Shears. It's about Jonestown. It is incredible. Similarly, this book focuses a lot on the women, the Black women who were the backbone of the People's Temple, which most people focus on Jim Jones. This book really focuses on the people that were part of his community. And then the last one, which is sort of in the same vein, is Going Clear by Lawrence Wright, which is a deep dive into Scientology. And I just love that book so much. Mm-hmm. So those are my three. Mariame, what do you have for us?
That's a great question. I can't even tell you how many books I have running through my head right now that I'd love to recommend. You can imagine. I'm constantly trying to get rid of books in my house. I have thousands. I would say one that you might really enjoy is called At the Dark End of the Street by Danielle McGuire. I really cannot recommend this book anymore. This book is the book that broke open for people the activism of Rosa Parks in the 1940s when she was supporting rape victims, when she was a NAACP investigator, and she supported a woman named Reese Taylor who was raped by a gang of white men. It may sound like this kind of like overly dire book. It's written in a way that helps you to understand that the civil rights movement was essentially from its beginning, the Black freedom movement, that's the modern period of time that we're thinking about, really started before the 60s, before the 50s, in the 40s and the 30s. But that bodily autonomy of Black women was a motivating factor for people fighting back against Jim Crow and segregation. It blew my mind, even though
I can't wait to read this.
Oh my God, Tracy, this is a book. When you read it, you're gonna be like, Mariame, you were 100% right about it.
Okay, I'm gonna order it as soon as we're done here today.
Every perspective you've had on the Black freedom movement of the mid-century. The other book I would recommend to you is a book called I've Got the Light of Freedom. I've Got the Light of Freedom is a book by Charles Payne, who's a professor of longstanding and was a mentor of mine at Northwestern University. Charles uses this book to explain to us what was going on basically in Alabama and in Mississippi during the Black freedom movement. And the reason I keep bringing up this period is because this period has such impact on us today, right? You wanted a nonfiction book that would relate. And you read I've Got the Light of Freedom, you will feel so much hope because it's a book about organizing and organizers, not written in a way that is like a manual or a how-to, but through stories and storytelling. You really see how things are going with people. I think the last book I would recommend is something totally different. It is called Spectacle. It's The Astonishing Life of Ota Benga. And it's a book by Pamela Newkirk. And it is this incredibly amazing story of an African man who was used as a human zoo exhibit in the US. And it tells the story of race and racism from a perspective that I think a lot of people don't think about. He was from Congo. He was quote unquote a pygmy. He comes from Central Africa. He is exhibited at the St. Louis World Fair in 1904. And it's a story about colonialism. It's a story about the deep roots of anti-Blackness in the United States and the world. And it will stay with you. It will stay with you after you've read it. And you will just, first of all, if you've never heard of the human zoo exhibits, that will really, and it's a tragic life that he ended up. He was a very short life, which is not surprising based on the trauma that he experienced. But I think you're going to be moved by this book. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Those are such good recommendations. Dakota, if you read them, you have to tell us what you think.
Yes.
And everyone else, if you want a book recommendation on the show, email askthestacks@thestackspodcast.com. Okay. Now we get to your books. Okay. 2 books you love, 1 book you hate.
Woo! 2 books I love. Well, I mean, I've already shared a few of them in the
Yeah.
recommendations, but I think I come back to Asada's biography, autobiography, all the time. It's a book I love. I give out all the time to other people. I make recommendations to other people. And I love, I was thinking about Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde.
Mhm.
It's a book that I have on my desk now, and it just sits there. I pick it up from time to time. I'm constantly thinking about it. Yeah, but I love Lord's poetry. I love Lord's essays. So those are 2 books I love a lot. But they're not my they're not the favorite books of all time, but they're the ones I love and I come back to. And then one book I hate, I'll say hate, but I don't now I've come to appreciate the book, but it's Capital, Volume 1 by Karl Marx. I read that book 4 times before I finally got it. I read it once for school in a class that I was taking as an undergrad, didn't get it at all. Read it in graduate school with other people, didn't get it at all. Read it again in another graduate school setting, did not get it. And then read it the 4th time in an organizer setting, and finally it clicked. So it's a book I love to hate.
Okay, that's fair. What are you reading right now? Anything?
I'm
Do you have
reading.
time to read?
I read all the time. I have probably 4 books right now sitting that I'm thinking about. One is called a new book by Melanie Newport called This Is My Jail. And it's a history of Cook County Jail. And it's just, I don't know if it's even out yet, but I just got it. I pre-ordered it. And I started reading it as soon as I got it a couple of days ago. So I love that book. I'm reading Ruha Benjamin's Viral Justice.
How is it? Is it amazing? I'm obsessed with her.
It's really very good.
Man.
I really appreciate what she's trying to do with the book. It's a mix between a story of her own life and how her own life ties to this kind of concept of connectedness, the ability to transform our conditions. It's really an interesting. I'm surprised by what I'm finding in the book. So that's
okay.
I'm definitely looking at that. And then I'm also reading a book I've been wanting to read, and it just came out, and I'm thrilled. And it's called The Most Absolute Abolition. And it's a book by a guy named historian named Jesse Osalski. And it's about the vigilance committees during the Underground Railroad period of time, and how enslaved people, Black people, basically it's a story of how we freed ourselves, and kind of explodes people's notions of what the Underground Railroad was and was not. I'm enjoying that greatly.
How do you decide what you're going to read next? Are you reading book reviews? Are you going to friends? Is it people that reach out to you asking you to read their stuff? Like, how do you decide what to actually pick up?
All of it. I get books. People send me a lot of books. People ask me to blurb books all the time. And so I get to read that way. I listen to New Books Radio. It's like a podcast of new books and authors talking about their new books. That's a way I find out a lot about so many books that I never would have heard of before. I get lots of recommendations from friends who are like, this is a book I loved and I'm reading. I put that on my list. I have an ongoing running list of books I want. And then I have all the books I haven't read that I've just ordered and that are now hundreds sitting there I need to get through sometime in my lifetime. So those are all ways I do that. I don't tend to read book reviews. Like I'm not interested so much in like the reviewers in a traditional sense, critics kind of stuff. I more like to pick things up according to what I hear. If it's like an interest thing to me, what gets sent to me, and then the New Books podcast.
I love that. I like to read reviews only after I've read the book.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. I like to be like, oh, you're an idiot. What do you know? Or like, oh, what a genius reviewer. You agreed with me about everything. You've talked a lot about nonfiction. Do you read fiction? Are you a fiction person? Hardly. Same.
Yeah, hardly. I read nonfiction and poetry.
Okay, got it. And do you ever do audiobooks?
Very rarely do I listen to audiobooks. I think my audiobooks are my podcasts.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what is your ideal reading setup? Location, time of day, snacks or beverage, temperature? Where are you? What's going on?
I read everywhere. I read in my bedroom a lot. I read in my living room, and I read in my office space. I'm reading on the train. I'm reading on the bus. I'm reading all the time. I love to read. I think
Mm,
that it is revolutionary. The book itself, as a technology, is such a beautiful thing. And boy,
hmm
of human creation, I don't know what we've made technology wise that equals and rivals a book. A
I
book is
agree.
more, yeah, a book is much more revolutionary than a smartphone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Do you have a favorite bookstore?
I have so many. I
Tell us
love
about two or three.
I love Women and Children First in Chicago, one of my favorite
hmm
bookstores out there. I'm a huge fan of Red Emma's in Baltimore. I love what they do. I'm a huge fan here in New York City of Blue Stockings, which is in Lower
Oh,
Manhattan.
love.
They're
And they
great.
have a delicious tea
They
situation.
have
Their beverages
tea.
are so
We
good.
partnered, my organization, Project Nia, has partnered with them to create a free store where
Mm,
we offer items that are mostly hygiene,
hmm
small numbers of like things that people can eat that are houseless. We also, because our partnership is to create the free store for people who are just recently released from prisons and jails, they can go over there, they can get toothbrushes, all that, and they work with the community in that way.
Yeah.
That's so it's a really community center, even more so than just a quote bookstore.
Right. Right. Ugh. And they also, if you're just there browsing, I love the like subject or like the titles, like the classifications, the way they organize their books. It's like really specific. And it's like they made space for a lot of books that aren't in other bookstores,
Exactly.
which is so enjoyable. As I'm sure you
So
feel that way. As
diverse.
someone who reads a lot, it's
Yes.
like I'm tired of seeing the same 7 books
Thank
on
you.
everywhere. And then it's like you get
Exactly.
in their nonfiction section and it's like Black motherhood. And I'm like, this is a dream.
Beautiful.
This is a
Beautiful.
dream.
Beautiful. I was so honored that they named a section of their children's book area after me. The little plaque over there. I mean,
Oh,
oh,
they
isn't
have
that
all those
lovely?
plaques. That's right. It's
It's
so
so
sweet.
lovely. It's so
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that store. Okay. This is sort of our rapid fire round. What's the last book you purchased? I think you just told us.
Oh my gosh. I mean the last I purchased, literally I purchased a book yesterday. What did I purchase yesterday? That's a great question. Oh, yes. I purchased a book that is from a guy named Rubem Alves, who was a theologian.
hmm
And I needed to, it's called The Poet, the Warrior, and the Prophet. I
Okay.
purchased that yesterday.
Cool. What's the last book that made you laugh?
Laugh like an actual belly laugh rather
I
than
don't
like
know.
laugh like,
You could laugh in any way that made you laugh. If it made you laugh, like, what is this? Or
like
like, ha ha ha, hilarious.
I don't read many books that make me laugh. I should yeah, even though I love
Okay.
to laugh, I can't remember. Yeah.
That's okay. What about a book that made you cry?
Wow. Probably Solitary
I still haven't
by
read that.
Wood Fox.
It's literally right above my head right now. I still haven't read it.
It is that is one of the um best books of the last 10 years.
Okay.
It's
Okay. I might
it's
start that this
oh
week.
my God. It is, and he recently
He
passed.
just passed. Yeah.
And I mean seriously, Tracy, just I don't even know how to I I read it, cried my eyes out, but was so friggin' hopeful. It was
Hmm.
so weird, but yeah,
Wait, I'm inserting a question that's not normally on the questionnaire for you
yeah.
because I feel like maybe you'll know. So I read a lot of like prison memoir. I think
Mm.
that's maybe what you call it, like Solitary. And I read a lot of it with this hope that I'm going to really like one
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
But I find that a lot of them are end up being like pro prison or
yeah.
like, are there any that you can think of that you really love that don't feel pro prison as a
in
way
terms
to
of
rehabilitate.
yeah,
Like there's so many where it's like all this horrible
Yes.
stuff happened to me, and then I went to prison and I found Jesus and I was on good behavior and I left and now I'm a good person and I met Joe Biden and like I hate it so much because it's like the first half of the book I'll be like, yes, let's go, like come on, you deserve this story, like I want to hear it. And then it's like, then I joined the women's group in the prison and now I believe the prisons are great, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's hard because those are the books that publishers want to see.
Right. And those are not the books that I want to see because I don't think that's real.
No. And you know what won't be that book is Solitary.
Okay.
It does not do that at all. And I think about, I think about that. I also think, I don't know if you've ever read Soledad Brothers.
I haven't, but I have it. I think I actually bought that at Blue Stocking because I had kept wanting it and I finally purchased it.
It's not a memoir, but it is a book written by an incarcerated person that is deeply well thought through.
Okay.
And frankly, the autobiography of Malcolm X is a
of
prison,
course.
but and that doesn't do that same I was rehabilitated.
Yeah.
So those are some that I can think of, but I'm really curious to see what you think about Solitary.
Okay, I'm going to start that. I have to read 2 books in the next few days, and then I think that I get free time reading. I'm almost done reading for the show for the year. I like to build in that like I finish the show so that December I can just do what I want.
That's great.
That's great. Okay. What about I bet you have a lot of these. What about the last book that made you angry?
There's so many books. I can't even. I mean, I'm reading This Is My Jail right now, and that's infuriating me to no end. And I feel like the books that make me so angry are not the typical books about like how you mentioned Blood in the Water, and like that kind of book is just like general corruption. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just straight up corruption by the state. Like I expect that. Like I read it. That's kind of like the CNN. You know what I mean? Like it's just the news. But This Is My Jail makes me angry because it's the constant reformer bullshit. Like it's like this person's gonna come in and do this thing, and it's like they're not gonna do this thing because Cook County Jail is a hellhole, and it's 2000. It's 2022, and you're writing about 1968. Like it exhausts me. It exhausts me, and I think maybe it's less angry than it is just like deep, profound frustration. Those are the kinds of books that really just I can't.
What is a book? What's your problematic favorite book?
I read a lot of Jane Austen, which I love. I'm a huge.
That's where your fiction goes.
That's where my fiction goes. I love Austen, and there's so much that's problematic about her, and I love her. I read, when I'm trying to like not think, I read romance novels from like Harlequin. Like it's the same reason I watch like Christmas movies on Hallmark. Like I'm not trying to think. There's no plot. I don't have to do character development. It's just nothing but like reading and not even thinking as I'm reading. So
that's my Grey's Anatomy and Bachelor shows.
Yes,
that's for me.
We all need it.
We all need it for sure, especially when you read a lot of like heavier stuff.
Absolutely.
Like where you have to think and it like has real consequences. I feel like people like, you watch The Bachelor? I'm like, yeah, and
absolutely.
I have to.
And also like, yes, it's entertaining, I'm sure. I don't watch The Bachelor.
It is.
But like,
it's so bad though. Like they tried to like dabble in race and I was like, can you not?
Don't do that. That's what, oh my God.
I'm like, can you not?
I don't want Black people in Hallmark Channel Christmas movies. People are like, Mariame, stop doing that. I'm like, I like the anthropological whiteness of those shows. Like I don't want to think about quote real life in the Christmas movie. And I'm
here for white mess. I'm here for white mess. And when your white mess gets on Black people, then I have to start thinking about the implications for the Black woman.
Exactly. Just let me have my non-thinking. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Oh, I'm very, very curious about this. What's the book you would assign, only one, to high school students?
Wow. the book that there are two books. One is the autobiography of Malcolm X, which radicalized me as a child, as a young.
That was assigned to me in high school, and I didn't read it.
Oh my God!
I read it in college. After college,
I'm telling you, I would assign that book to any young person and tell them to immediately read it, and I know they will be transformed because I really that book just stuck with me in such a real way. And the other book that I might assign, it's a good question. I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. What would I assign? Probably the June Jordan's poems, collected works. I probably would want them to read that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one for today. If you could require the current president of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden, to read one book, what would it be?
That's such an interesting question.
Yeah. Well, this question's really changed since I started doing the show. It used to be Trump, and the answers used to be like much more flip. It'd be like a how to read book or like, but now I like that it's a president that people have to actually consider seriously. And Joe has a lot of things to consider.
What I want. There's a book that I really appreciated last year or early this year that it's hard all the time with pandemic time. It's just one thing. Is a book that was written by Spencer Ackerman, which is called Reign of Terror. Which
I have that too.
Yeah, which right it just for him, I think, because imperialism in the current moment is so we don't have a robust anti-war movement. We're not in a space as a country where we really focus on international implications of what we do domestically. I feel like that book really explodes the quote, what could have happened at 9/11 and after, in a way that I don't think some of the kind of more didactic books that are out there don't do. The book is riveting. It is infuriating. If you want to talk about getting angry, you will be furious. But you will also just be like, what a friggin' waste. What a waste. What could we have done when we talk about abolition as a possibility-based vision, as a vision of emancipation and abundance? And we constantly think about like, what could we have done with all those resources, all those people that were unnecessarily harmed and killed, all of us. We have not even evaluated how we changed as a people. Like what happened to us as people through that time. We haven't been able to even have a reckoning over that yet. And it's 20 years ago now, Yeah. Yeah, I would suggest that book.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to let you go today, but you'll be back on November 30th to talk about Prison by Any Other Name. Mariame, thank you so much. This was such a delight.
Such a wonderful time. I'm thrilled. I mean, to be able to talk about books for an hour is like a joy. Joy.
I agree. Everyone else, we will see you in the stacks. All right, that does it for us today. Thank you all so much for listening. And of course, thank you to Mariame Kaba for being our guest. Remember to listen to our November 30th book club discussion of Prison by Any Other Name, The Harmful Consequences of Popular Reforms by Maya Shenwar and Victoria Law. Mariame will be back for that conversation. If you love the show and want inside access to it, head to patreon.com/thestacks and join the Stacks Pack. Make sure you're subscribed to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram and at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter. And check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. This episode of The Stacks was edited by Christian Duenas with production assistance from Lauren Tyree. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tegirigis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.